Welcome, welcome, welcome. I would like to welcome you to another episode of the Unpopular Podcast. This is the man, the myth, the legend, Jalen Hunter. And if you would do me a favor, please subscribe to the YouTube channel. I'm trying to reach 1,000 subscribers, so anything will help. And here's where we'll start. So week 2 of the NFL has concluded, and we are going to react. Now, most all these reactions, because we're so deep or so early into the season, most of them are going to be overreacting. So I don't have to keep saying, overreaction, but we're going to break down each game and give my point of view from each team. Let's start with the biggest game, the game that had us all like, what? And of course, that is the Ravens and Chiefs. Going into this game, the biggest storyline was, will Lamar Jackson ever beat Patrick Mahomes? Going into the game, Lamar Jackson was 0-3 against Patrick Mahomes, and I think he was like 30-5 against everyone else. And it's just, Patrick Mahomes and Lamar Jackson are just completely different players. They're both very good players, don't get me wrong, but they're both completely different. You have Patrick Mahomes, who's more of a thrower. He'll throw the ball left and right. And of course, Lamar Jackson is more of the run game quarterback. So, but both, Lamar Jackson is probably the most elusive quarterback the game has ever seen. But let's just speak on let's talk about the Kansas City Chiefs side. This is probably the first game where you saw mistakes really cost the Kansas City Chiefs. Now, of course, you can say, but what about the Super Bowl? Yeah, the drops cost them, but I think the biggest thing that costed that costed the Chiefs the Super Bowl was the fact that their offensive line was horrible, and you knew that's how they feel, because going into this season, they completely retooled the offensive line, but Kansas City Chiefs, the idea about, when we talk about Kansas City and how to beat Kansas City is you have to be mistake-free. You have to be mistake-free because they capitalize on all their mistakes, on all your mistakes. And hell, you can even look at this game. Lamar Jackson started off with a pick six. He also had a pick in the end zone. Both of these were in the first quarter. Had a pick in the end zone. Tyrann Mathieu had 2 picks. And they scored on each pick. They scored, of course, the pick 6. So you're already behind the 8 ball. And, of course, they were just going up and down the field. Patrick Mahomes was looking good. Travis Kelce had one of the best touchdown runs I think I've ever seen him do. Tyreek Hill was pretty quiet, but McCole Hardman was everyone was doing what they're supposed to do, right? And like I said, they were capitalizing on the mistakes that Lamar Jackson and the Ravens were doing. But in the second half, you started to see usually the Kansas City Chiefs mistakes don't really bite them because they don't make that many mistakes. Not saying they're a perfectly well-oiled team, but they don't really make that much mistakes. I don't know how it happens, right? But let's talk about Patrick Mahomes and the interception first. I've seen Patrick Mahomes. All right, so for people that didn't see, Patrick Mahomes was scrambling. He was getting sacked, but he just threw the ball up, I guess, hoping that probably Travis Kelce was going to get it. And it was intercepted. It was intercepted in Ravens territory. And, of course, it's in the second half. And the Ravens ended up getting it and scoring. And here's the thing. A lot of people, the thing that we always talk about when we talk about Patrick Mahomes is sometimes he can be a little reckless. Now, his recklessness doesn't cost him, in part because he's so good, in part because, the team around him as far as the offense is so good, and the defense has improved. I mean, Chris Jones is good, Tyrann Mathieu is good. But we've seen Patrick Mahomes do that, like falling and then just throwing the ball up 1,000 times. And every single time outside of Sunday night, either a player caught it, like one of the Chiefs players catches it, or it just is an incomplete pass. I think this was the first time in a while, I think, that we actually saw someone intercepted. And, of course, it's stuff like that, it usually hasn't cost the Chiefs because, again, they're so good. It usually doesn't cost the Chiefs. But when you're playing up against a team like the Baltimore Ravens, that could potentially cost you. And then the pretty much backbreaker was Clyde Edwards-Helaire fumbling the ball in the fourth quarter. Now, a lot of people, here's my problem with the play. My problem with the play isn't the fumble. Of course, the fumble's bad. The fumble is horrible. Yeah. I think it was a third and 2 or something like that. My problem isn't that Clyde Edwards-Helaire fumbled the ball. Yeah, again, that's bad. But it's football. Mistakes happen. My problem is with Andy Reid. Now, okay, hold on. When you hear me say this, I'm not saying Andy Reid's a terrible coach. I'm not saying I'm beefing with Andy Reid. I'm not saying I have a problem. My problem is the play calling for that play. Late in games, right? Late in games, what you want to do is give the ball. Like, you want the ball in your best player's hands. And that's in any sport. That's in basketball. That's in baseball. That's in any sport. You want the ball in your best player's hands. Or for baseball, you want your best players in the ninth inning. You want them to decide the game. I don't understand. Yes, Clyde Edwards-Helaire is your pretty much starting running back, but we know the offense that the Chiefs run. So why would you take the ball out of Patrick Mahomes' hands, who was slicing and dicing the entire night? In fact, the only bad play he had was the interception. Every other play was really good. So why would you take the ball out of his hands against a defense that's stopping the run? The Ravens, okay, so the Ravens they were stopping the run time and time again. They weren't doing that good of a job with, the passing game, but that's to be expected when you're going against the Chiefs. But the run game, they were stopping them they were doing a tremendous job. Now, again, why would you give the ball to Clyde Edwards-Helaire in a stressful, like an important time like that, especially when we know the Ravens defense, especially the run defense, is on fire right now? Clyde Edwards-Helaire isn't the most stout quarterback. He's pretty small, and not quarterback, running back. He's pretty small. Like, I don't understand why you would take the ball out of Patrick Mahomes' hands. Again, this is the first. I don't think that this is going to completely wreck the, Kansas City Chiefs. Is one game, is game 2. But I do think that this is the first game that you're really seeing that the Kansas City Chiefs' mistakes cost them under the Andy Reid, Patrick Mahomes era. So, I just think that was an interesting call, and it was a great game. It was. I know it's week 2, but it was potentially game of the year at this point. And let's go over to the Ravens side. Going into it, especially after last week with the Ravens losing to the Raiders. Let me first say I apologize. I am man enough to come on here and give my opinions, give my takes. And if I'm wrong, I don't mind being wrong. It's my opinion. I don't mind being wrong. When I came into the game, before the game, giving my predictions, I didn't think that I thought the Ravens were going to, I'm not going to say get blown out, but I thought they were going to lose by a wide margin, maybe 14 points or so. Because watching the Ravens play the Raiders again, and I didn't like what I saw. Of course, Jimmy Smith was out. Peters was out, and of course, the Ravens have been hit since the offseason with just a litany of injuries. So I didn't think that Derek Carr, and we'll talk about him a little later. Derek Carr carved up the Ravens defense. So I thought, well, dang, if Derek Carr is doing it, imagine what the hell the Kansas City Chiefs is doing. Like, imagine what the Kansas City Chiefs is about to do to these people. And I wasn't wrong. I was not wrong. Patrick Mahomes carved up carved up the Ravens defense. But the story around this game, honestly, is Lamar Jackson. Lamar Jackson was the best player on the field. Even with those 2 interceptions, of course, one of them being a pick six. I think it was the first drive of the game being a pick six. We've talked about this a lot, but I think this is a good time to bring it back up and hone on it. Lamar Jackson is unlike any quarterback we've ever seen. Lamar Jackson is not Michael Vick. I think he runs faster and a little more elusive than Michael Vick. Now, he doesn't have the arm as Michael Vick, but yeah. Lamar Jackson is not Cam Newton in his prime. We've never seen a player like Lamar Jackson. And I think because of that, and I know because of that, it's hard to really wrap our brain around just exactly how good Lamar Jackson is and exactly who is Lamar Jackson. So, and I say all that to say, because of that, you know, the world likes familiarity. The world likes comps. The world likes to, well, you know, compare one player to another. It allows them, it's like movies, right? Shouts out to Malignant for people that have seen it. Malignant is a movie unlike, I don't, at least the plot twist and everything. Malignant, I liked that movie, Malignant. I saw it this weekend or last weekend or something like that, last week. It was a good movie. But it's probably unlike any other movie we've seen, especially in the quote-unquote horror genre. And because of that, there's a lot of mixed emotions and a lot of mixed reviews from the movie Malignant. Now, again, movies are subjective, music's subjective. If you like it, you like it. If you don't, you don't. There's nothing wrong with that. It is what it is. But I liked the movie. And a lot of reviews are saying it's confusing, or it's just too jumbled, or it's just too incohesive, you know? But when you look at it, I think that, and even the director, I think James Wan, I believe his name is, shouts out to you. He even said, this is unlike anything I've done. You see, people like familiarity. Like I said, you like to say, hey, this is just like this, and it allows you to accept it more. The problem is with Malignant, just like with Lamar Jackson, you can't do that. I don't think I've seen a movie quite like Malignant. Of course, there are bits and pieces that are like other movies, but I don't think I've ever seen, in totality, I don't think I've ever seen a movie quite like Malignant. And we've never seen a quarterback quite like Lamar Jackson. And because of that, a lot of people want to fairly criticize a player, by the way, who is the youngest, I believe, unanimous MVP ever. Does Lamar Jackson have limitations? Yes. Lamar Jackson, we all know what they are. You know, Lamar Jackson needs to improve on his passing. I mean, there were a couple passes that he overthrew. I think it was like 2. One of them was big to Marquise Brown. Overthrew him. He needs to get a little better in the short game, like in the short passing game. He needs to get a little better with that. But we need to stop. Just because we can't compare, just because we can't say he's like him or Lamar Jackson is just like him. So because we need to stop overly criticizing and unfairly criticizing Lamar Jackson. People think just because Lamar Jackson may need to improve in one area, he's just completely garbage, or he's not a top quarterback. One, again, youngest unanimous MVP, and 2, there's a lot of things that you can look at some of the greatest, right? And I'm not saying, when you hear me say this, don't hear me say that he's better than Tom Brady. But if you look at Tom Brady, Tom Brady is one of the most cerebral. I mean, he's the GOAT of quarterbacks, right? And there's things that Lamar Jackson does that Tom Brady couldn't even fathom doing. Some of those runs, and I understand he's a quarterback, some of those runs that he did against the Kansas City Chiefs on Sunday, I mean, the dude I think he was averaging like 10 yards a carry as a quarterback. on a team where everyone that's scheming against you knows what you're going to do. They want to run the ball. The Ravens were built on running the ball. And everyone except I think one running back averaged more than 6 yards a carry, or 4 or 5 yards a carry, averaged more than that. Yeah, man, we need to really put respect on Lamar Jackson's name, man. He was the best player on a field that saw Travis Kelce, saw Patrick Mahomes, saw Tyreek Hill, saw Marlon Humphreys, Tyrann Mathieu. Lamar Jackson was the best player on the field. And there's things that he did, for whether it was the jump pass or, of course, we know the soundbite going around, John Harbaugh asking him if he wanted to go for it on 4th down. Of course, he said yes. That 4th down secured the game. Not a lot of players are doing that. Not a lot of coaches are asking their quarterbacks if they want to do it. The touchdown run or some of the passes where he's scrambling and his unorthodox passing angles and stuff. Like, Lamar Jackson is unlike any player we've ever seen, especially at the quarterback position. And I don't think that's a bad thing. Yes, of course, he still has limitations, but that doesn't mean that, it doesn't mean that he's garbage. I feel a lot of people overly criticize and unfairly criticize him because he doesn't have a comp. His comp is probably no one in the NFL ever. So shouts out to Lamar Jackson. Shouts out to the Ravens, and they got the win. So let's move over to what we saw on Monday night, which was the Green Bay Packers and the Lions. And I'm starting to see something. I'm starting to see something. It's only week 2, but I'm starting to see something with the Packers that I feel could definitely play a part moving forward. First and foremost, beating the Lions is congratulations, you won, but the Lions are the Lions. The Lions have been bad forever. They're down their 2 best defenders. It's the Lions. Jared Goff. He had a couple turnovers. It's the Lions. The Lions do have some skill players. Don't get me wrong, but it's just the Lions. Dan Campbell, we still don't know. It's still his first year. The Lions are the Lions. So them losing to the Packers is not news. Outside of this, the score was 35-17. All right. The Packers didn't really get going until the second half. Hell, the Lions were just going up and down the field. Like, Jared Goff and that offense looked like a Super Bowl caliber, just going up and down the field the first half. And that is the problem that I'm starting to see with the Packers, and it's their defense. I understand that, Za'Darius Smith is out, and that could be the biggest reason, but there should be no reason why week 1 they get absolutely torched by Jameis Winston and the Saints. Like, they get taken to the backwood and just it's bad. I think 38-3, probably the worst game I've ever seen. I think statistically that was Aaron Rodgers' worst game ever, honestly. Then the next week, at least in the first half, not only does it take the offense a while to get started, but the defense is getting torched. And of course, after coming back second half, Aaron Rodgers starts getting going. The Lions start lionsing, and the Green Bay Packers look like the Green Bay Packers. So I'm not really giving them credit for winning. My concern is is their defense going to prevent them from being where? And it's not just that. Is their defense. I don't think their defense is good enough to withstand slow starts from the offense, especially against good teams. Again, it's the Lions. So the Lions ain't putting fear in nobody's heart, bro. Now, again, at the end of the day, Aaron Jones was incredible. Aaron Rodgers made 2 passes, one to Devontae Adams, one to Robert Tonyan, that only Aaron Rodgers probably could ever make. But again, and most of that, of course, was in the second half. It's just, I don't think their defense is good enough to withstand slow starts. And hell, we even saw it. We saw it week 1. Now, a lot of people want to say it's overreaction because it's just week 1, but we just saw it in week 2. Now, the difference is you're not playing against the Saints. You're playing against the Lions, an 0-2 Lions at this point. So, I understand that Zendarius Smith's not there, so that that could be rectified if and when he comes back. But this defense is not gonna. And a lot of people ask, Aaron Rodgers didn't want to be there, so why were they clamoring so hard for him to be there? Like, why were they pretty much like begging for this man to be there? And I say it goes back to those 2 passes. It's kind of like Lamar. Like, there's really no quarterback. When Aaron Rodgers is rolling, there's really no quarterback like Aaron Rodgers. I don't think there's any. Now, again, I'm not saying that he's the best or anything, but again, the pass to Devontae Adams and the pass to Robert Tonyan is why they kept him. Like, it's like they know Jordan Love's not ready, so it's like, we need you, Aaron. There's nobody that can do what Aaron does. So, that's that, man. That's that. Again, I'm not saying that the team is now back on track because they beat the Lions. It's the Lions. So, but shouts out for the win. Shouts out to wins. Now you're 1-1, and good job for avoiding being 0-2. So the next. The penalty game, man. It's man. It's starting to become real hard watching the Chargers, man. It's starting to become a challenge. It's not because they're bad. It's because they're so good. They're so good, but they keep getting in, they get in their way always, man. A lot of people. I'm really starting to see it may not have just been Anthony Lynn. So the Cowboys beat the Chargers 20-17, but they had no business beating the Chargers. The Chargers had 2 touchdowns taken back because of penalties, and there was penalty after penalty, after penalty, after penalty, after penalty. And it seemed like most of them were going against the Chargers. Now, yes, there were some that went against the Cowboys, but most of them was going against the Chargers. Whether it was offsides, whether it was taunting, which, by the way, P.S., this entire week it felt like every game was decided or was impacted by a taunting call. We'll talk about the Titans game. We'll talk about the Steelers game. Like, it just felt like almost every game was affected either one way or another by a taunting call. And it doesn't make this taunting calls. What do you want? Like, what are they expecting? These players are playing at a high octane level. Of course, taunting is part of the game. We remember Cam Newton, hitting them folks. We were like, it's part of the game. And of course, it ain't leading to no fights and nothing. Why is it so important? Why are we putting so much on an official's plate. There's so much on an official's plate already. Like, I don't think anybody goes to a game thinking, dang, I wish I was that official. No. There's a lot on an official's plate. So why are we adding another one with this stupid taunting call? And these taunting calls are affecting the ending of games. Like, they're taking away points, i.e. the Chargers Cowboys. It took away touchdowns. Like, it's not. It is, man. It's just dumb. It is what it is, but it's dumb. But back to the Cowboys and Chargers, man. The Chargers, it just seems like year after year. I guess they're cursed. I don't know what it is. I guess they're cursed because this has happened time and time again. The fact that there's something that affect, like, they lose late games or they lose games horribly because of bad shit. Like, again, 2 penalties, 2 times. The score was 17-20. The Chargers lost this game more than the Cowboys won it. Now, of course, I mean, good for the Cowboys. They won, but penalties took away 2 touchdowns for the Chargers. 2. I don't know any team that wins in those type of circumstances. 2. So, but I mean, the it's just discipline at this point. I mean, Mike, like, the Chargers looked good outside of the penalty, like all the freaking penalties. Like, that game probably had the most penalties of all the games on Sunday. Like, it was just that bad. So it was, man, they were throwing penalties left and right that game, or flags left and right. It was dumb. It was a tough game to watch. Of course, it was supposed to be a better game because you had the Chargers and you had Cowboys, but it was just a hard game to watch due to all the flags being thrown. And again, I believe that the Chargers lost the game more than the Cowboys won because of the stupid penalties. Again, it took a taunting penalty took away a touchdown. Think about that. So, and then the Cowboys. One thing I wanted, it was kind of abundantly clear on Sunday. Now, again, it could just be one game or 2 because it could just be one game, but it made it looked abundantly clear that the Cowboys running game might be moving in a different direction. And I say that to say Tony Pollard has looked great again, it's 2 games, but he's looked great. Now, I understand Zeke had a touchdown as well as Tony Pollard had a touchdown on Sunday, but you're starting to see those plays where Zeke maybe gets 5 yards, maybe gets 6 yards. Those same plays that you're giving to Tony Pollard, you're getting 15, you're getting 10, you're getting like 12. Now, I don't think Zeke is done, and again, it could just be early in the season and, of course, how they're scheming it, whatever, but it's starting to look like Tony Pollard is being more reliable right now than Ezekiel Elliott. And it kind of is going back to last year because we know with Zach going down, Zeke was very inconsistent, but Tony Pollard was a lot more consistent last year than Zeke. Now Zeke is slimmer and coming into this season. Zach's healthy, so it's more of a passing game. But it's starting to look like Tony Pollard might be more reliable at this point of his career than Ezekiel Elliott. And that's not taken away from how good Ezekiel Elliott has been. And he's still the number 1 running back. But Tony Pollard's he's getting a lot better. I'll tell you that. There was a lot of plays where he should not have converted, or they were probably expecting maybe 4 or 5 yards and they'll get 10 or 15 or 20. So I'm just saying, don't be surprised. Oh man, I'm sorry. I realize I get it now. I know what's wrong with Carson Wentz. I know what's wrong with Carson Wentz. For the longest, I'm like, yo, there is something wrong with Carson Wentz. I don't know what it is. It's not just the injury history, but there's something wrong with Carson Wentz. And Sunday I figured it out. You can teach a lot of things. You can unteach things. It's like a habit, you know? Like you can break a habit and you can form a habit. It's all about making a concerted effort to do something, right? Like working out in the morning. For some people, that is you have to make a concerted effort to work out in the morning. A lot of people, including myself, work out a little better at night, right? I'm not a morning person, so I work out better at night. I feel better going to the gym, going to hoop, going to lift weights at night. I know a lot of people say, well, start your day. I get it. That's good for you. But some people, they have to try to form a habit. Some people have formed a habit in working out in the day, in the morning, first thing in the morning. Some people shower in the morning. Some people shower at night. It's it's your habits, right? One thing that Carson Wentz has a habit of doing is being reckless. It's not just reckless with his body. It's reckless. Like some of the passes that he makes are reckless passes. Passes you don't need to make. Now, if you complete them, great. Woo. But if you don't, it causes more damage than not if you don't make them. I.e. the shovel pass. The shovel pass that was intercepted and they were like at the 2-yard line. Or like those passes he just throws up in the air. The same pass that Patrick Mahomes was intercepted on, it feels like Carson Wentz does that at least once a game. I don't think it's... Now, I will say this. I do think his confidence level has been shot for a while now, ever since the Nick Foles situation in Philly. I do think his confidence... Because, again, before that, he was an MVP candidate. He was an MVP frontrunner. And then, of course, you go from that to the city not really even rocking with you like that because Nick Foles brought them their first championship. But one thing I'm starting is it was like this in college. And it's like this in the NFL. He's reckless. Not only put aside the injury history right now. He's reckless. I think he tries to win the game on one play every time, and it's not the case. Now, bring into his injury history. I say all that to say so. The Rams beat the Colts on Sunday, 27-24. The Rams should have lost that game. The Rams did not play good. They didn't play like they played week 1. They didn't play good. I'm not saying that they're just not good. The Rams just didn't play good. The defense just wasn't clicking really. The offense. Let me say this: the defense was clicking. It really was the offense. The offense just wasn't clicking. Matthew Stafford didn't look like the same Matthew Stafford week 1. It was just probably off, especially offensively. It was probably just an off Sunday. But Carson Wentz we sit here today, Wednesday. Carson Wentz sprained both ankles. How do you sprain both ankles in one game? Both. I think the problem is, man, he's reckless and he's unreliable due to his health injury concerns. And when you're the Colts, and that's what I was saying last week, that's probably their worst fear. It's not their worst fear because, they can't get another quarterback. I'm not saying. But this team, when you look at this roster going into this season, this team had Super Bowl hope, Super Bowl aspirations. And they thought that They were a quarterback away. Hell, a lot of this team is the same team from a year ago that had Phillip Rivers that was on the verge of at least going to the second round of the playoffs. If it wasn't for, running to who they ran into, they would have, I'm not going to say they would have won a Super Bowl, but they would have at least made it to the second round of the playoffs. This team is that good. They're just, they're thinking they're just a quarterback away. And when you bring in Carson Wentz, you're hoping, pairing him back with Frank Wright, you're hoping that that's going to get you over the top. And it's starting to look very evident that it's not, because he is a reckless player, and he's not able to unlearn that, because this has been the case since North Dakota State. But of course, you can get away with a lot more in college than you can in the NFL, because in college you're probably playing maybe one NFL player a night or a weekend, maybe, especially in the division he was in. Like, he went North Dakota State, you're probably maybe only playing one or two NFL players the entire season. So you can get away with a lot of stuff that you can't get away with in NFL. Again, I'm not saying that Carson Wentz is garbage. All I'm saying is he is reckless. And with him being reckless, it doesn't work. And his recklessness, along with now you don't even know like when he's gonna come back from 2 sprained ankles. And again, remember, he did have surgery on one of his feet. This can cost you a game or a season. And I think that's the fear that the Colts have. And it's starting to become, I know it's only week 2, but it's starting to become a reality. So, oh man. Another reckless player. No, but this is funny. You have 2 ends of the spectrum. Both Carson Wentz and Kyler Murray are very reckless players. The thing is, Kyler Murray's reckless. Hell, Patrick Mahomes is a reckless player. The thing is, Kyler Murray's in the Patrick Mahomes, it doesn't cost them games. It's costing Carson Wentz and the Indianapolis Colts wins. Kyler Murray, I think if you ask me right now, it's the MVP race is a neck and neck race between Kyler Murray and Tom Brady. The game on Sunday against the Minnesota Vikings is one of the craziest games I've seen in a while. And it's like, on one hand, speaking for the Cardinals, on one hand you're happy, you're excited. The Cardinals you're starting to see that they have something that they haven't really had in a while, and that's more of a balanced team. Why do I keep saying Carson Wentz? Kyler Murray can go crazy, which he's gone crazy. I think he had this is another 5 touchdown game. Or but this is a 5 touchdown game. Kyler Murray can go crazy. Oh no, did he have 5 touchdowns? I know. Tom Brady had 5 touchdowns, but he can have the amount of touchdowns that he had. Right? He can have the amount of touchdowns that he had, and I'm gonna see 3. He can have 3 touchdowns. Something incredible. I know one was to AJ Green. One of them was to DeAndre Hopkins. I think the other one was to Rondé Moore. You can do what he does, scrambling out the pocket, this, that, and the third. And now the team is more balanced. Kyler Murray is doing his thing. Chandler Jones is doing his thing. J.J. Watt, Budda Baker. Like, it's starting. I'm not saying it's completely caught up, but their defense is starting to catch up with their offense. They're becoming more of a balanced team. So the recklessness that, again, Kyler Murray had 3 touchdowns to 2 interceptions. And those 2 interceptions were not good interceptions. Like, they were, I wouldn't have done that one. But his recklessness is not costing them games. Hell, Kyler Murray, in my opinion, should be front runner, at least lead. I mean, they're 2-0. Should be leading in the MVP vote, at least right now. Again, week 2, it is what it is. But So on one hand, you're excited, like, hey, our team is getting balanced. It is what it is. I'm excited. It's they're good. It's a really good team. This team is. The NFC West is juggernauts, and this team is not like losing ground. I mean, I think they're like leading right now in the NFC West. But on the other hand, they can think to themselves, yeah, well, we were doing all that, and we still almost lost. In fact, if it wasn't for them missing the Vikings, man, missed a field goal. I think they missed an extra point. The Vikings, the Vikings should have won that game, but they didn't. So shouts out to the Cardinals. It was a good game for the Cardinals, but the Vikings, they're starting to tread on the same level as the Chargers, man. Except for they're not that good of a team. Yeah, you have Adam Thielen, you have Justin Jefferson. That's about it. Oh, and Delvin Cook. I'm sorry. Delvin Cook was going crazy on Sunday, but it's Kirk Cousins, man. Kirk Cousins is the kicking game. It's just the Vikings have lost. They're 0-2, and both games have been crazy losses. Like, I'm not saying crazy as far as like they getting blown out. Their losses they shouldn't have lost these games. The Vikings should look up right now and be 2-0, and they're not, because they're the Vikings. So I don't know, man. I don't know. Let's move over to the Dolphins and the Bills. Now the Bills beat the absolute dog-ish out of the Dolphins 35-0. I said this. I said, the Bills are probably going to destroy the Dolphins, mostly because of how bad the Bills played week 1 and against the Steelers, and they didn't want to duplicate that. And the Dolphins, what the Dolphins do best, they just didn't. Like, their defense was horrible. Their defense was god awful. It was just bad. But the storyline coming out of this game was Tua Tagovailoa, and I think this game is a microcosm of one reason why they've been trying. The Dolphins is always a team that you hear trying to dip their toe in the Deshaun Watson pool. Kind of like when you look at some players can't escape that injury history. Some players are just more fragile than others. Not calling them weak or anything, but more players are just fragile than others. I say that to say Tua's hurt again. I think his bruised ribs. As you remember, Tua got hurt at Alabama. Tua has been hurt a lot. But even when he wasn't hurt, he wasn't hurt this whole game. You're starting to see, it's kind of like, now not to the same extent, but I think the Dolphins are kind of losing patience with Tua, kind of like the Giants are losing patience with Daniel Jones. Again, it's not to the same extent. I think the Giants are just tired of Daniel Jones, I believe. But of course, Brian Flores and that great coaching staff, they're going to try to get the best out of Tua because, Tua is a high draft pick. We know how good Tua was at Alabama. But it kind of goes to what I said about Cam a little bit. As far as your availability is your best ability, right? And the fact that he continues to get hurt, that is Tua. Now I think his day to day, he's time we don't know if he'll be playing next week or this week. On top of the fact that you have a quarterback that's better than him, that's available, that they're asking for the sun, the rain, and the moon, and Deshaun Watson, which probably going to wait for that price tag to go down, seeing as though this is the second week that he has not played. But I just think that they're I think their patience with Tua is running out, because even when Tua is on the floor or on the field, he doesn't look incredible. He looks like an average quarterback. Sometimes below average. I mean, there was I don't know if you remember, there was multiple games where he got benched for Ryan Fitzpatrick when Ryan Fitzpatrick was there last year. So I'm not chalking his inconsistency or anything. You can't prevent getting hurt. I'm not saying that that's his fault, but I'm just saying that this is another case of somebody of Tua getting hurt. And the Dolphins should be better than they are. I mean, what do you do at 1-1 at this point? Your defense looked incredible game 1. It looks horrible game 2. So you don't know, and you got to get that together. But it goes back to what I said before. You can have an incredible team in general. If you don't have the quarterback, or if your quarterback is subpar at best, you have no chance. So I think that they know they have to make decisions with Tua. It's just, can they make decisions now? Because I think if they were to make a decision, their decision is, if they wanted to get another quarterback as far as in the draft, they should have done that this year. When you had Justin Fields, when you had Mac Jones, when you had Trevor Lawrence, when you had Zach Wilson, they should have made that decision now. Don't get me wrong, Jalen Waddle's cool. But if you were on the fence about Tua, you should have went with a quarterback last year, because the draft coming up, like next year's draft, doesn't really have maybe Spencer Rattler, maybe Spencer Rattler. That might be it. And I don't think really Spencer Rattler is doing much right now, at least. Or you go with Deshaun Watson if you can pry him from Houston, because I don't know what the hell Houston's doing either. So that's just the spot that the Dolphins find themselves in. Again, that's why I said I wouldn't worry about the Bills. I mean, the Bills are going to be the good. I mean, the Bills are the Bills. Don't let the first game fool you. What we saw on Sunday is the Bills. It's just the Dolphins have a lot more questions than they really want to have. So, speaking of penalties, probably one of the more exciting games was Seattle and Tennessee. I remember I said this. You can go back. I said that Tennessee was going to win this game. I did say that. I thought it was going to be a little more than 3 points, but I thought Tennessee was going to win this game. But we're starting to see something. You're not starting to see something. We've seen something, but it's starting to rear its head again. When people talk about Damian Lillard, right? People always say, well, Damian Lillard, he has CJ McCollum, he has Robert Covington, he had Enes Kanter. He has pieces around him, which is true. Damian Lillard has pieces around him. Of course, I mean, he's not a one-man band. He had Melo, but those pieces aren't good enough to win a championship, right? Those pieces aren't good enough to take him to the promised land, the championship. He is good enough as a player to go to the championship and win. Like if he played with a bunch of hymns, if he played with a team full of Damian Lillards, they'd be champions by now probably. But that's not how basketball works. Basketball, you have to play with a team. Now, of course, some teams have better players than others, i.e. Brooklyn Nets, the Golden State Warriors for a while, the Lakers. But just because you're the best player and you may be a championship caliber player doesn't mean the players around you. Why did I just bring up Damian Lillard? Russell Wilson, there should be no reason why the Seattle Seahawks lost that game. I think they were up like double digits in the fourth quarter. But what happened? You started to see it. The offensive line just, I don't know if they were tired. The offensive line fell apart. Wide receivers started dropping passes. And the defense. We knew Derrick Henry was coming. I mean, Derrick Henry rushed. You know what it is? The Ravens and the Tennessee Titans kind of mirror each other in the sense of their games are really predicated around running. The only difference is the whole team, like the whole offense for the Ravens is predicated on running. And you can tell that because of how much they lack talent really in the wide receiver game. I mean, when your number one receiver right now is Sammy Watkins, that's an issue as far as the talent around your in the wide receiver core. The Titans, their best player is Derrick Henry, and they will not shy away from that. Derrick Henry goes crazy. Is Derrick Henry. That's just, he had 41 catches, 41 rushes for like 13, I think like not 13, 3 touchdowns. And the big, like he had a big breakaway for one of them. Derrick Henry. And that is the last thing you want against a defense like the Seattle Seahawks. So one that can give up big plays, even though you have Bobby Wagner. And they made some big plays. I mean, it's not like the game was, they lost in overtime. But it was a very favorable call that went their way with Russell Wilson, which I believe should have been a safety at the end of the game. But they lost. Titans won in a field goal because Derrick Henry's going crazy. Julio Jones had over 100 yards. A.J. Brown, he dropped a big pass. But even I brought up Damian Lillard for in talking about Russell Wilson is because Russell Wilson is surrounded by, he has talent, right? Dwayne Brown, the offensive line, DK Metcalf, Tyler Lockett, who caught a big another touchdown. Chris Carson. On the defense, you have Bobby Wagner, you have Jamal Adams. I mean, you have players, right? You have talent around you, but the problems that affect the Seattle Seahawks tend to rear their ugly head at the worst moments. And that's what happened on Sunday. They should have won the game. They were up, again, double digits, I believe, in the fourth quarter with Russell Wilson as their quarterback, and they still lost. And that's why I always question if they can, are they going, it could be a sleeper, it could be a dark horse as far as Seattle, but there's so many things working against them. And as far as their offensive line still is not good. Their defense is not that good. Hell, you know what it is? The difference between the Ravens running game and the Titans running game is it's so hard to scheme against the Ravens running game because there's multiple people that can run. Lamar Jackson can kill you. Any one of their plethora of running backs can kill you, especially with healthy. When healthy, they can do that. Tennessee Titans, one person, Derrick Henry. Now, I understand Derrick Henry is Derrick Henry, but that's one person. And they couldn't stop that. They couldn't even slow that down. Oh, man. That's Seattle. That's Seattle. So, and shouts out to the Tennessee Titans for, winning. So, another thing that we're seeing is The NFL is hard. We knew it was hard. I mean, it's hard. And the NFL is not like college, like not even in the slightest. And that goes without saying. So you had two rookie quarterbacks going against each other in the Patriots and the Jets. Now the Patriots won 25-6, but you saw a lot. I think you saw exactly how each team, as far as the Patriots and the Jets, you saw exactly how each team can win and it can lose. And most of it, let me just speak on the Patriots. The Patriots have an incredible running game. They don't ask Mac Jones to do a lot. He doesn't have to do a lot. It's different from Trevor Lawrence. It's different from Zach Wilson. They don't ask him to do a lot because he doesn't need to do a lot. He has an incredible offensive line. He has an incredible running game. He has an incredible defense. They don't ask him to do a lot. He doesn't need to do a lot. I think if they asked Mac Jones to do a lot, they would be a lot worse off than they are, because I don't think Mac Jones is ready to do a lot. And now he's good, he's straight, but he's not good enough to do a lot. The Jets ask Zach Wilson to do a lot, like a whole lot. Their offensive line is horrible. Their skilled positions are horrible. Their defense is horrible. They ask Zach Wilson to save them in a lot of areas. And the problem is Zach Wilson is really, or at least at this point in his career, is incapable of doing that. Zach Wilson had a turnover problem at BYU. I saw one game live. It was BYU going against Navy. Now, he wasn't bad. He destroyed Navy. But if you look at Zach Wilson, has a turnover problem. Zach Wilson threw a lot of interceptions in college. And what are we seeing these first 2 weeks? Zach Wilson having an interception problem. Think about it. And it goes back to what I just said about college compared to NFL. And especially with BYU, you probably won't see. You probably maybe see 2 or 3 NFL type players the entire season. The entire season. Maybe 3 if you're lucky. There's not a lot of NFL players. And a lot of those NFL players are not on the defensive side of the ball. Unless you're playing like Alabama or something. A lot of the NFL players that you're seeing more than likely are on the offensive side of the ball. And Zach Wilson still had an interception. He still had a high turnover rate. So what do you think is going to happen against 100% NFL players? I mean, he had 3 interceptions the first quarter. Or first half or something like that. It was bad, man. It was bad. And I'm not saying that, he's garbage or anything. I expect him to get better. But, yeah, man, that's a lot of things that were okay and flew in the NFL. I mean, in college is not flying in the NFL. It's just not happening. So we'll have to see how that goes. So. Shouts out to Teddy Bridgewater and the Broncos. I mean, they're 2-0 now. Yeah, they haven't really played a tough schedule these first 2 games, but shouts out to them being 2-2 or beating the Jaguars 23-13. Trevor Lawrence had some moments that he looked really good. He looked really good in maybe a quarter or 2, but it kind of goes back. He's still a rookie, and the pieces that he has around him suck. Like they're horrible. And Urban Meyer's, it looks a little bit over his head. Like it's just bad. It's bad. And The Broncos look really good. Again, I'm also a lot of this is because of the people that they're playing, but they have a real defense, man. Von Miller, Patrick Surtain, like they look really good, and Teddy Bridgewater is doing exactly what he needs to do. You're not losing them the game. It's a complete team. This is the team that the Broncos hoping to have this year with Drew Lock, and the fact that Teddy Bridgewater is doing it. Hey man, shouts out to them. So I don't know if they're champions. I mean, I don't know. They're not championship caliber team in my opinion, but they're a lot better than I thought they would be. I knew they were going to be decent. I knew they were going to be good. I just didn't think they were going to be this good. So at least early. And again, a lot of it is predicated to the people that they played. But shouts out to the Broncos for being 2-0 at this point. So. Also, shouts out to the 49ers for being 2-0 as well, beating the Eagles 17-11. I think this is more on the Eagles than the 49ers. I mean, again, we know who the 49ers are. The 49ers, Jimmy Garoppolo, Jimmy Garoppolo's still good enough to win games. I'm not saying he's garbage, and even with Trey Lance there. The defense is, again, to me, they have probably the best roster in the NFC as far as just roster. Deebo Samuels look good. Like it's in a complete team. Again, I think that this one was more on the Eagles as far as we expected. The Eagles that we expected was what we saw week 2. Week 1, I feel that was an anomaly. And like we're going to talk about in a second, anybody is looking good playing against the Atlanta Falcons. But it was just bad on all fronts. On defensive front, Jalen Hurts didn't look great. In fact, no Eagle really looked good. The Eagles that I thought we were going to see is what we saw on Tuesday. What we saw on Sunday. So shouts out to the 49ers and Jimmy G for beating the Eagles 17-11. So a game that I want to kind of talk about a little bit more is the Steelers and the Raiders. So the Raiders won 26-17. There's a lot coming out of this game, actually. Let me speak on. Let me get. So. I don't know how to. There's a reason why, in fact, let's just take the first 2 games, right? Well, that's all we can take is the first 2 games. No, we can take the first 2 games in all of last season. The Steelers look exactly the same. The Steelers look exactly the same. From all last season to these 2 games, the Steelers look exactly the same. And that is a huge problem. We know what the Steelers are. The Steelers are an incredible defense. Probably the best defense in the league. And that's it. Big Ben looks old. He still can't throw the ball downfield. His arm looks more shot than Drew Brees' arm. And his accuracy from short range is really good, but again, he can't get the ball downfield. Their offensive line is horrible, which is why I think they're 31st in rushing right now. With Najee Harris. I understand he's a rookie, but Najee Harris, at least, it should be one of the better running backs in the league. And they're 31st in running. Not because of Najee, it's because of how bad their offensive line is. You have a pretty good receiving core. Chase Claypool, Juju Smith-Schuster, Johnson, which I hope that he looks like he's going to be out for a lot of time because he got hurt on like the last play of the game. The Raiders didn't do anything special. And the Steelers, yes, you can have the best defense in the league, or at least one of the best defenses in the league. But when your defense is called upon, like, constantly to save you, there's going to be times when they can't. And they're going to get tired. I mean, the defense was, do you know how the defense was on the field for the Steelers for so long? The time of possession discrepancy is crazy. And the Steelers, man, this is why I said they're going to be third in the division. I think they're going to be better than the Bengals, but this team, in my opinion, is nowhere close to being as good as the Ravens or the Browns. Because the same things that plagued them last year is the same thing that's plaguing them this year. And it's worse because they're a year in. I mean, they're like another year. So Big Ben ain't younger. Juju's not younger. Claypool's not younger. He's still young, don't get me wrong, but the Steelers did not look good. I would say they need to change. They need to like rectify it, and they still have time. But this is the same thing we saw all last year. This is why I continuously said, do not let that 11-0 fool you. There's a lot wrong with this team, and the same thing that I was talking about is the same thing that we're seeing now in week 2. So. And the Raiders, man, shouts out to Derek Carr. Shouts out to Derek Carr. Now I'm hearing, I think, Keyshawn Johnson saying that he's top 5 quarterback. No. Not at all. Not even a little bit. But I think Derek Carr is definitely underrated, and I think he doesn't get a lot of respect that he deserves. But Derek Carr, you know what it is? Derek Carr is good with the pieces around him. As far as Derek Carr can make the pieces around him good. I don't think he's good enough to make them great. I don't think that Derek Carr alone, I don't think Derek Carr's talents can rise the Raiders up out of obscurity and get them wins that they shouldn't lose. You know what it is? I don't think Derek Carr is good enough to win games that they shouldn't. Outside of the Ravens, but that was a lot of, the Ravens were injured, this, that, and the third. Derek Carr is really good. Derek Carr is a great talent, and I think a very underrated talent. I just don't think, I know he ain't no top 10 or top 5. Derek Carr is good, but he doesn't have a lot to work with, but he still won. So I'm not here to just throw dirt in his name. So shouts out to Derek Carr. So, and the Raiders for beating the Steelers 26-17. The Bears beat the Bengals 20-17, and Andy Dalton got hurt, meaning, and it comes Justin Fields. And I don't remember who said it, but it was a defensive player that said, one of the easiest things that you can do is fool a rookie quarterback. And you saw it. I mean, Justin Fields got fooled on a play badly and threw an interception. Now, Matt Nagy already came out and said that if Andy Dalton is healthy, he's going to start. I think they're just committed to that at this point. Justin Fields looked good at times. I don't think he's ready, but I don't know. I don't know when he will get ready. You know what I mean? Like, he's gonna have to play games. You're gonna have to get reps like that, and I just don't know when he's going to be ready. If he keeps going, the reason why they're starting Andy Dalton over Andy, what's his name, Justin Fields, is they don't think Andy Dalton's going to hurt them. Andy Dalton might not win them games, but he's not going to hurt them. The problem is when you're hurt, which of course you can't control getting hurt, but when you're hurt or when you're throwing interceptions or fumbles, then it's like, all right, what are we doing? Like, what are you doing? So I think, the Bears, they're going to, if he's healthy to play, they're going to continue with Andy Dalton. I just don't understand or know when, I don't know when when Justin Fields is going to play. Maybe I will say maybe week 4, week 5, but I was going. They're trying to run the wheels off of Andy Dalton. So I don't know what's going on here. So we'll see, I guess. So a shouts out to the Panthers for beating the Saints 26-7. We saw old Jameis. we saw old Jameis, man, have 2 very bad interceptions, like horrible, like, bro, no, Jameis, don't. It was so bad. Like, once he threw it, like, you can tell almost every Saints fan was like, no, James, what are you doing? Like, it was a bad interception. And one of the most kept secrets in the league right now is how good the Panthers defense is. Like, the Panthers right now have a top defense in the league. That's how good they are. Like, they are physical, they're fast, and they don't let much wiggle room go. Now, I can also I'm also contributing the Panthers being 2-0 to their record. Like, they're not really playing juggernauts either, kind of like the Broncos, but they're beating who they're beating. They're beating who's on the schedule. So the Saints, they did not look like they did week 1. The same Saints that rode week 1 is not the same that played the Panthers. I'll tell you that. But shouts out to the Panthers. Sam Darnold looked good again. Again, when you have a team around you, when you have a better organization, you're going to look better if you have the talent. A lot of people were saying Sam Darnold sucks and just get him out of the league when he was with the Jets. But as you're seeing, when you're playing, when he's playing behind a great offensive line or a good offensive line, and you have really good offensive pieces like Christian McCaffrey, like Robbie Anderson, like DJ Moore, and when you have a good coach in Matt Rule, hey, boom, you're gonna look good. So shouts out to the Panthers for beating the Saints 26-7. I think I was wrong. I think I was wrong about Matt Ryan. I always said I was confused. I'm like, yo, why does the freaking Atlanta Falcons suck so bad? Now, I was not wrong. Their defense is horrible. Now, a lot of it is, of course, Tampa Bay, but they lost. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers beat them 48-25. They were in the game for a minute, and then it just lost it. But Tom Brady threw 5 touchdowns. Tom Brady is looking like he's 25 again. I know Gronk had 2 touchdowns. Mike Evans had 2 touchdowns. I think Chris Godwin had a touchdown. The Bucs look incredible. The Bucs look like the best team in the league right now after two weeks. Antonio Brown looks good, even though he didn't score a touchdown, but he looks good. Leonard Fournette looks good. The Bucs look great. But I think I may have been wrong about Matt Ryan. I was always saying that let me say this. I was right about this. The Falcons' biggest problem is their defense. Their defense quite possibly is the worst defense in the NFL. I will put the Falcons defense up against the Jets defense, against the Minnesota Vikings defense, against the Jaguars defense. I put the Bengals defense. I think the Atlanta Falcons have the worst defense in the league, and I don't even think it's close. But that's not why I'm saying I was wrong about Matt Ryan. I always thought it can't be Matt Ryan. I mean, Matt Ryan was an MVP in this league. He took the Falcons, even though they lost, he took the Falcons to the Super Bowl. You have Calvin Ridley, even though he's not a top 10, top tier running back. You have Mike Davis. You have Kyle Pitts. I think another big problem that I didn't think, what it was? I was wrong because I didn't think Matt Ryan is a problem. Matt Ryan is a huge problem. At least 2 weeks in, Matt Ryan is a huge problem. I mean, he had 2 pick sixes. Two pick sixes from the same guy. Like, the same guy had a pick 6 on him twice in one game. he panics. He be throwing the ball anywhere. I think he lost it. I think it's probably been time, and I was just naive to it, or I was just denying it. But I think it may be time for Atlanta to really start looking for a new quarterback, because Matt Ryan looks horrible. Matt Ryan has looked horrible all season. He didn't look good a lot last season, and it's not looking good for Matt, man. It's not looking good for Matt. So, shouts out to the Bucs for beating the Falcons. I think the Falcons, even with the talent that they have, Falcons top 5 worst team in the league, and that's saying that's in the league with the Titans, man. Whatever. Speaking of the Titans, I hope Tyrod Taylor gets better, but he got hurt. But the Browns beat the Titans 31-21. Jarvis Landry also got out. He was placed on IR, so he'll be out the next 3 weeks. Nick Chubb looks great. The Browns got right back, got back on track. Nick Chubb, Baker Mayfield didn't lose him the game. They look good. Their defense, I think the Browns have the best offensive line in the league. So Baker Mayfield has time, especially with the weapons. I think with Jarvis Landry leaving, I think Odell Beckham probably will be back. If not next week, the week after, probably next week. And yeah, man, the Browns look good, and the Texans, again, I hope Tyrod Taylor gets back. They started a rookie quarterback who didn't look good at all, or they had to replace him with a rookie quarterback who didn't look good at all. So, that's the Browns. So shouts out to them. And that has been my week 2 breakdown. Yeah, man, that's been the breakdown. So let's move forward. So we already talked about Ben Simmons, man. We talked about Ben Simmons' report. Like the rumor was he wasn't reporting to camp. That has been confirmed that Ben Simmons will not be reporting to the 76ers camp, and he's made it clear that he has no intentions to ever play for the 76ers organization again. Why am I talking about this? Because we've talked about this before. This is pretty much confirmation. But I'm talking about this because I'm starting to look at this from a new perspective. When's the best time to sell a car? All right. The best time to sell a car is when it's at its peak shape. Probably when it just got out the shop, as far as all the parts are working. You just got a car wash. You just got it polished. The absolute worst time to sell a car is when you have dents on the junk. You have scratches everywhere. It's still a very good car. It's just, it doesn't look good. It doesn't look like, even though it is a good car, it doesn't look like a good car. The reason why I'm talking about this now, even though we've been talking about this and pretty much confirmed, is I think Ben Simmons is playing this wrong. I understand that you don't rock with the organization anymore after, the fans turned on you, and what Doc Rivers said after the game, and what Joel Embiid said after the game. But you also have to realize, or Ben Simmons also has to realize, he was horrible in the playoffs against the Atlanta Hawks, especially in the fourth quarter of the entire series. I just think you're playing it wrong. You're not. Ben Simmons is still a great player, but his trade stock is at an all-time low. One, because of what the 76ers are asking for. It'd be different if the 76ers were asking for what they're asking for if Ben Simmons was still playing like we know Ben Simmons to play. He hasn't. The last time we saw Ben Simmons, he was wide open for a layup and dropped it off to Matisse Thybulle, who got fouled and missed, I think, 1-on-1 the free throw line. Ben Simmons, 6'7", 6'8", 6'11", Ben Simmons Your starting point guard, Ben Simmons, scared to shoot a layup. And now you're saying that you don't never want to come back to the team. Now we get, Ben Simmons. We know who Ben Simmons is. We know who he is. It's, we know. I just think you're playing it wrong. If I were him, I would go back, play it out, still want the trade, but play it out. Let people know, okay, my jump shot has gotten better. Hopefully it has, which I doubt it has, even though I'm starting to see all these hoop mixtapes and stuff where it's gotten better, but that always happens. My jump shot's gotten better. I'm still dedicated to the game. I'm still one of the, a premier player, so that the asking price that the 76ers are asking for isn't as steep as it is now, when the last time I seen him, he was dumping it off to Matisse Thybulle. I just think he's playing it wrong, man. I would go do training camp, probably do preseason, I will look towards the trade deadline. I'm like, all right, I'm here until the trade deadline, and then, we out. Because, again, and I gave a list, man. I talked about the 76. I talked about Portland. I talked about Golden State, Washington, Boston. All these places I think could be good for him. But it's like, I don't think Boston can afford him. I know Golden State is not trying to give up all that they're asking for. I don't think Portland can afford him. So they're going to have to trade. Who can really afford Ben Simmons, or who's going to give up what they're asking for? Clippers maybe, but no, that's too many cooks in the kitchen, in my opinion. I just don't know. I don't know. Washington probably can't afford Ben Simmons, so I just think you're playing. I think Ben Simmons is playing it wrong. Now, he's gonna land somewhere. Still Ben Simmons. He's still young. He's still a premier player, but I don't know if the destination that he wants is where he's going to land because of the moves that he's doing now. So we'll just we'll have to wait and see. And lastly, before we go, so JJ Reddick announced his retirement after 15 years in the league. Shouts out to JJ Reddick. He's been on several teams of course, New Orleans Pelicans, the 76ers, the Dallas Mavericks, I think. There's a reason why you see a lot of shooters, as far as, Steve Novak or Reggie Miller or Ray Allen. Larry Bird could have played longer if his body didn't just get destroyed. But there's one trait that always lasts, longest in the NBA, are shooters. Hell, Mike Miller, shooters, Kyle Korver, who's still kicking. Shooters, that's a game that every team's going to need a shooter. Every team's going to need a shooter, and that's why you see a lot of people that mostly predicate their game on shooting last as long as they do. That's why I don't, even though Steph Curry's 33, 34, I think his game he still maybe has another, 9-10 years left, because Klay Thompson, that's why I'm not really worried about if he's going to come back. I'm worried a little bit about his defense, but shooting is shooting. You don't forget how to shoot. So that's the reason why JJ Reddick, who isn't the best defender, who isn't the best scorer, but he's a tremendous shooter, has lasted as long as he did. And a lot of people are thinking, he could always come back if he wants to. But shouts out to JJ Reddick for an incredible career. I think he only missed the playoff once in his career. I know he was with Orlando and those teams and the Clippers. So shouts out to JJ Reddick, man. Incredible player. One of the best shooters the league has ever seen. And congratulations on 15 years. So, and there you have it, man. That has been today's episode of the Unpopular Podcast. I appreciate you guys. If you want an Unpopular Podcast shirt, hoodie, sweater, long sleeve, joggers, the link is in the description below. I have multiple different designs, multiple different colors. Just click on the design, click on the color, get yours today. Go get your Unpopular Podcast merch. Also, please subscribe to the YouTube channel. I'm trying to reach 1,000 subscribers, so anything will help. And I appreciate you guys. I love you guys. And until next time, much love.